Hi, Cutie Pies. It is Lanikia, and I am coming to you with the EndGame Season 1, Episode 2 called Fairytale Wedding. Y'all, it was so good tonight. It was so good tonight. Okay, so they go back to 2012 when Elena and Sergey were trying to get married, right? So we see they are with each other and they are happy. I'm just gonna wrap this part up. So they're with each other and they're happy and everything, and and they're like, we gotta go to the church, we gotta get married. So they go to the church to get married, and Sergey's mother is there, and she gives Elena this pendant and tells her it's been passed down, and now she's queen of the family. She said the men, they're the face of what we do, but we actually are the ones who run, everything. And so she tells them, okay, y'all about to get married. And so they go into the church, but what they don't know is that someone has planted a bomb as a wedding gift. So they go into the church and she says, y'all wait for the music to start. And as soon as they go in, a few seconds later, the church blows, and the only person that survives is Elena and Sergey. And so because of that, because they really did have affection for his mother, they liked her, they loved her. And so because of that, he wants revenge right away. And she said, no, that's not the smart thing to do. We have to go because they don't know we're alive right now. So we have to lay low and we have to go. And so that's exactly what they do. They leave, and he's still wanting revenge. But we see them tattooing each other, and he wants revenge and everything. But she's like, no, we have to play this smart. We're going to build up, take our time, and then I promise we're going to come back for everyone. And he tells her, I know what my mother told you, that, you're the head, you're the queen now. And he says, you're my queen and everything. So that's the flashbacks that they had in this part of the show. And I know I could have just did it throughout, but I didn't want to forget anything, so I'm going to get that out of the way. So then we see Val tells Elena, I'm not listening to a story. Because remember at the end of last week's episode, she said, let me tell you a story. She's like, I don't want to hear no story. And so she leaves. Elena's there. And then the next thing we see is Anthony. She's talking to him and she says, what could Owen have to do with this? And Anthony's like, listen, talk to Owen, like pressure Owen and everything and find out what's going on. And we see there that they're at Bank 2, and their boss is telling Anthony, like, hey, I know you're loyal to Val, but it would be great if you share that information, because he said if something goes wrong here, we need to know what's going on and everything, because he already knows, because he doesn't want Val on the case because her boss is trying to move up, but he doesn't want her on the case because she was still his thunder, but he wants to know the information because he needs that information because she is good enough to steal his thunder. He needs to know what she knows. So then we see a young man who's walking down or whatever, and then these people come out with guns and they're trying to kidnap him. And so he starts running, but they do end up getting him, and we find out. And then Elena starts telling this story about a mother and a child, and then we find out it's Bromberry's son. Bromberry's son that has been kidnapped, and they strap him up, and he has a bomb on him and everything. So then we see they ask her, well, what do you want? Or, and everything. And she says, well, you can start by giving me some new clothes. I've been in these 2 days or whatever. And they don't want to make a big fuss. So, Bromberry is like, let's not make a big fuss about this. I want to keep this quiet. I don't want the news, the media, and everyone knows that she's not only taking Banks hostage, but she's taking the secretary's son hostage as well. Um, so then we see where, so they're trying to keep it on a hush. So then we see where Val is talking to Anthony, and she's like, hey, look into what's that tunnel that they took the son through. Like there was a route that they had to go, and he was like they were in an escape car, and she says, look for a truck. And we do find a truck, and she says, get someone on that truck. Like we need to find that truck. So they get someone on that. And so when they do that, when they go to the truck, they actually find that the car that they kidnapped him in was actually inside of the truck, and they switched cars out, and the escape car was in the truck. And so Val is looking around, and she was like, I know this spot. This is my mother was buried here or whatever. And she says there's always a deeper meaning. And so they start asking questions like, what does that building look like that he's being held in? And so once they see what that building looks like and everything, they then go inside the building and they find that the son is being held, where the son is being held hostage. Um, so the son is being held hostage with a bomb and everything. Well, not hostage. Oh, wait, I mean, I guess hostage, but the criminals are gone or whatever. And so Val is like, what's the code? And so she starts talking to him, and he was like, well, at one point I was arrested, but my mom made a phone call, and I used to tell him to call me the small man because he was dealing drugs for about 6 months, but his mama covered it up because, And so they were like, no, that's not it. So Val just kept thinking. She said she was talking about a mother and a child, a mother and a child. And she says, Isaac Bigley. And so that ended up being the code. And so they throw the bomb, and they got the bomb away so that no one, got hurt and everything. And they were like, who's Isaac Bigley? And she tells Anthony, that was my mother's killer. So they're at the grave later on, and she tells him that was my mother's killer. Like, my dad arrested him, and he went in and came right back out the next day, and he put 30 rounds into their house, and her mother was there, and that's how he did. And he never did a single day in jail because he just went under. And she tried to find him, even when she, joined the force. She still tried to find him and could never find him. And when she did find him, she found that he was buried. And so she just had to let it go. So then we see at Bank 2, Lawton is sick. And you remember, he's the guy that he's the bank manager and everything. He's the bank manager and everything. Okay, mama. And he is he's sick because he was supposed to be the person that got up and everything and was speaking for the hostage. She said, and the girl who they're trying to recognize who she is, she's like, you just really took this. Like, you just told them you were going to be the leader for the hostage or whatever. But he's gotten sick, and they look at him and they're like, oh my gosh, he's going into cardiac arrest. And so they tell her, can you let him out because he's going into cardiac arrest. And the police are like, we got to get him out of there because he's going to be considered the hero, and we cannot have the hero die, So Val goes to the secretary and she says, does she have anything on you? Because that's like what you're talking about with your son. That's like little. There's always a bigger picture. There's layers to this. And she's just like, no, there's nothing else you find on me. Put her in solitary confinement. I'm going to check on my son and all that. And she asked her about the rope. Val was just trying to figure out what is it. And she was like, there's nothing. There's nothing she has on me. So then we go back to Bank 2, where they're about to let Lawton out because he's sick and they don't want him to die. And the robber tells him, I saw you deny a woman credit, because a black woman credit because she had one missed payment. And he was like, there are rules. And she said, you enjoyed it. So when you get out of here, you have to promise to do better because I don't want you to die or whatever. And I hope, if you live, and I hope you do, you have to promise to do better. And he's like, I'm going to do better because he was real sick, y'all. And the medic that they sent in was actually the medic that they sent in, the one who looked at the screen because they said we need a medic to see what's wrong with him. They were like, oh yeah, it's cardiac arrest. He's throwing up. He's doing this. Yeah, he's really sick. That's who came and gets Lawton out of the building. And when they do that, earlier they had talked about we need to get the woman who's holding them hostage in Bank 2. We need to get her voice so that we can try to find her and find out who she is, and maybe that'll give us more detail about all the people in the bank. Because remember, Bank 2 is dating the guy from, is it Bank 1? I believe Bank 1. But anyway, so when they make the exchange for Lawton, he says, um, let's negotiate. Is there, like, there's something you need from me? And she was like, oh, we don't need anything from you. So they got her voice. They got her voice picked up. And he's like, find out who this B is. I ain't like that part, but okay. So then the medic, goes. So we find out that the woman that's holding Bank 2 hostage actually put something on Lawton to make him sick. And so the medic removes it, and she does the EKG, and on the bottom of his shoes, they see that it was a USB attached. And so the medic jumps out, and she's driving or whatever, but Val is there because Val has figured it out that she was crooked. And so she goes to the medic. So they go all together, and she was like, why would you do this? Like, what you're a cop. What would make you change? And she says, you'll see. And Val says, she's like, what do you mean? Well, I'm going to see or whatever. And she was like, no, when I say you'll see, I don't mean like 5-10 years from now. I mean, like right now, you're about to see why or whatever. And it's a bigger picture. And that's what Elena just keeps telling Val. There's a bigger picture, like, that you're not seeing, but you will, and we'll become partners and everything. So then Val's boss tells Val, let's share information. And she's like, no, because you just have dropped the ball twice, and now you want my help and information, and you want to present this to the FBI and everything together. But that's only because you've messed up, and you want to shit. Like, it's political. You want to make moves up in ranking and everything. And he was like, oh, you're petty, Val. But they showed the clip, and then they go back to Bunbury. But before they do that, Val tells Anthony she thinks that Elena has her car bugged, because they show a clip where she says they're going to see this Street Fighter, and then they show where Elena is calling her a Street Fighter. So she thinks, okay, well, she has to have my car bugged, and that's how she's getting information, maybe, helping. But they strip her car, and there's nothing. She does not have it bugged, but they said there's a big case. And she said, oh my God, this woman put her clothes in the back of my car. And Anthony was like, what? And she said, yes, when we were probably at the cemetery, she had somebody put those clothes in the back of my car. Like, somebody that slick, like, you gotta know that you're not gonna get them easily. So then we see where they show us what was on the USB card, and Bunbury is just like, this doesn't have anything to do with me, but it did, because it showed her making crooked deals and everything, and getting money, and helping people not getting like being aware of when the police and everything were going to raid and all that kind of stuff. And she tells the director, she's like, I'm the secretary. You don't want this kind of news getting out. So the other man from last week has already resigned. And so give me a few weeks, and I'm going to resign, and it's over. And he was like, you are under arrest or whatever. So they take her away. And so then Val goes to speak to Elena, who is, dressed up in a new uniform, because they did give her new clothes when she asked, but it was an orange jumpsuit. But now they have her dressed up, and she tells, no, actually not at this point. She's still in the jumpsuit. But anyway, she tells Val, there is a bigger picture than you're not seeing. And Val is just like, you're going to slip up at some point. She said, yeah, but not yet. So to me, it's like she knows that someone could make a mistake and potentially get her caught. But I'm feeling like, even if that happens, she's not worried about it. Like, that's the end game. Like, she doesn't care, because that's the end game, because she keeps saying, but not yet. So I think if it's like she knows something is going to happen. I don't know, but like, I'm loving this show, y'all. It's really good, and I'm looking forward to all of this, to see how this plays out. So then we see, because she keeps telling Val, you're going to be on my side. And she was just like, because in the trunk also was a picture of Owen, Sergey, what's his name? Sergey, and Elena. And she says, unlike the secretary, I remember who I have, the photograph evidence, so I can remember who I was taking pictures with and everything. And she was like, when was this taken? And she was like, I can't remember. She wouldn't give her any information about the photograph. But remember, they still think Sergey. What? How am I pronouncing his name? Sergey is dead. They still think he's dead. So, mama. So they still think that he is dead. So she keeps saying, well, it had to be 2 years ago because your husband died 2 years ago. Okay. So then we go to the prison. I mean, she leaves him. That's nothing. So then we go to the prison and she goes to see Owen and she's like, Owen, let me help you. And he tells her, leave this alone. Just let it go. And she's like, I remember when I wanted to kill Isaac and you told me, and she said, what did I have? And he said, a box cutter. And what did you tell me? We'll get through this together. And he's like, this is different. Leave it alone. I can't give you any information. But he did give her a 4-leaf clover and told her good luck. And he left. And she's just like, and so then Sergey is like, what did you tell her? And he said, nothing. No hints, no anything. He said, no. He said, let me tell you a prison joke. He tells this to Owen. Because remember, they're in prison together. And so he starts telling this prison joke about the inmate, the CO told the woman, your husband is lazy. And she said, what do you mean he's lazy? He's digging. He just told me he's been digging. Y'all are working him too hard. And they said, your husband is the laziest prisoner here. And she said, no, he just told me he's been digging a tunnel. He's been digging this tunnel, And Owen was just like, And he said, well, not funny, but I know who's somebody who will. So he goes back to his prison cell and he's typing on the phone or whatever. And then we see Elena and she's turned towards the monitors and she's, dressed in her thing and she has her little brooch that her mother-in-law had given her. And she's looking at the monitors and you see one flashing and it's Morse code. And so that's how she's communicating because he's talking to her in Morse code and she starts laughing because he told her the joke and, she's the person that's going to laugh. Y'all, this show is so good. The more, I get into it, I'll get the names right for you. I'm sorry, but I'll like the first few episodes, it's always hard to do reviews over because it's like you're still trying to get into it and figure it out. But I'll get it, y'all. All right. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I hope you're enjoying this show as much as I am. I'll talk to you later, Cutie Pies.